You know, we have this idea of the wild as this place that's, well, somewhere else. It's out there in the mountains, the deep forests, separate from us. But what if that's not true anymore? What if the wild has moved in? Today, we're diving into the pretty incredible story of how animals like bears, coyotes, and raccoons are not just surviving in our cities, they're actually thriving. So, picture this. You're in a totally normal neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina. The sun's out, the mail truck is doing its thing. Everything feels completely 100% ordinary. But then, you see something that just doesn't belong. And there it is, a big old black bear, just sitting there on the sidewalk, having a scratch, while the mail carrier, totally unfazed, just keeps on walking. I mean, this isn't some CGI from a movie. This is real life, and it's happening more and more. It shows you just how blurry that line between our world and theirs has become. So yeah, that really brings us to our first big point. The wild isn't some distant idea anymore. For millions of people, it's right outside the front door. These animals are our new and, let's be honest, very surprising neighbors. And look, their ability to adapt it's just stunning. So researchers in Asheville were tracking this one female bear. And get this, she spent the entire winter hibernating inside a tree. But this tree wasn't in some quiet forest. Nope, it was just a few feet away from the constant thundering noise of a major interstate. To her, all that traffic was basically just a lullaby. That's a quote from Colleen Olin-Buttle, a biologist who's been studying black bears for over 20 years. And even she says they still manage to surprise her. Her words really get to the heart of it, right? We have totally underestimated how resourceful these animals really are. All right, so that begs the big question, why? Why is this all happening right now? What's driving this huge move into our cities? Well, it turns out it's a tale of two really powerful trends that are happening at the same time. So on one hand, you've got a push factor. As we build more houses and more suburbs, we're basically paving over their homes. We're pushing them out. But on the other hand, there's this massive pull factor. Our cities are an all-you-can-eat buffet. You've got trash cans, pet food left outside. For a smart animal, that's just too good to pass up. And all of this is happening while something else is going on in the background. The black bear population has bounced back in a huge way. We're talking nearly 800,000 of them now. That's an amazing conservation success story. So you've got more bears and less of their traditional forest to live in. It's the perfect recipe for them to start showing up on our front porches. But let's be clear, this is not just a bear story. Oh, no. The list of these urban pioneers is getting longer all the time. We're talking coyotes in downtown Chicago, foxes living under porches, and of course, raccoons who can outsmart any animal-proof trash can you throw at them. And they all share one key trait. They're incredibly clever, and they are not picky eaters. Okay, so we know why they're coming. But how? How in the world are they actually pulling it off? What does it take for a wild animal to survive in a concrete jungle built by and for us? Let's take a look at their urban survival guide. Let's start with the coyote. They might just be the most successful urban mammal of all. They're everywhere. In Chicago, an ecologist named Stan Gert has been studying them for years, and what he found is just mind-blowing. They're not just in the parks, they're in every single neighborhood, even downtown. And here's the kicker. They've learned to read stoplights to cross busy streets without getting hit. Think about that. And what makes their success even more remarkable is this number. Despite the fact that we kill at least 400,000 coyotes every single year, their populations just keep growing and spreading. Their ability to adapt is literally outpacing our ability to control them. It's incredible. All right, but what about the raccoon, the original trash panda? Well, a researcher named Sarah Benson Amram designed this amazing experiment to test just how smart they are. It's basically an IQ test in a box. The raccoon has to figure out which button to push to get a treat. But here's the twist. Once they solve it, the researchers change the rules. It tests not just smarts, but how flexible their thinking is. And the results? They were wow. Just wow. Most of the raccoons solved the puzzle on the very first night. The coyotes? A totally different story. When they tried the same experiment, only one coyote even bothered with the box, and it took that one 44 nights just to start trying. This tells us something really important about how they operate. So here's the bottom line. It all comes down to strategy. Coyotes often succeed by being ghosts. They're smart enough to live in the shadows and avoid us. Raccoons, though, they do the exact opposite. They succeed by diving right in and actively exploiting us. They see our world as a bunch of puzzles, just waiting to be solved for a tasty reward. Now, as fascinating as all this is, it's not always a charming story about clever critters. When these two worlds, the human world and the wild world, smash into each other this closely, there are going to be problems. There's going to be conflict. And we have to be real about that. Back in Asheville, the same place with a chill mail carrier, there have been some really serious incidents. Bears have killed pets. At least one person has been injured. This is the tough side of coexistence. It's the other side of the coin. This quote from Valerie Patoot, a woman in Asheville whose dog was killed by a bear, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's not about hating the animals. It's a completely understandable desire to feel safe in your own backyard. And that's the central tension in this whole new urban ecosystem we're building. So, where do we go from here? With all these challenges, how do we move forward? Well, it means we have to start thinking about urban wildlife in a totally new way. You know, for the longest time, even scientists didn't really take this seriously. Animals in cities were just seen as pests, not real wildlife that was worth studying. Raccoons were apparently just too good at escaping from their cages, so why bother, right?
But that view is changing, and fast. As Seth Magel from the Urban Wildlife Institute points out, our entire planet is becoming more urban every single day. So to just ignore the animals that are successfully figuring out how to live in that new world, that would be a huge mistake. Understanding them is a key part of understanding our own future. And Magel adds another really crucial point. So much of the conversation is about managing conflict, but we can't forget that a lot of these encounters are actually kind of magical. That little jolt of joy you get when you see a fox on your morning walk or watch a family of raccoons from your window. Coexistence isn't just about solving problems, it's also about celebrating these moments of connection. So I want to leave you with this final thought. We've talked all about how incredibly adaptable these animals are. They're learning to read traffic lights, solve puzzles. But as our worlds keep merging and overlapping, who do you think is really being forced to adapt more? Them or us?